Hello and welcome to another edition of Personal Health and Fitness. I'm your host, Chad Marshik. My show today is on balance training, and balance is really important for all people. You don't necessarily have to be an athlete. You can be anyone out there that is interested in improving their balance, because balance is something that we tend to lose as we get older, okay? Oftentimes your hips or your hamstrings or joint stabilizers become weak and kind of out of shape. That oftentimes causes issue with balance. So you can train balance, you can improve balance. Balance can be learned, it can be improved, and it can be challenged. And so we're going to give you several examples today, both for basic exercises, intermediate exercises, and advanced exercises. So we're going to start off with the basic exercises. And the basic exercises are primarily going to be intended for those individuals that maybe are older, a little bit out of shape. But again, for somebody who's really out of shape, age doesn't matter. All right? So the first exercise we're going to talk about is a single leg balance drill. Katie's going to help me, new employee here at Body Symmetry. And Katie, what I want you to do is imagine you're 80 years old, okay? You're going to stand, I'm going to ask you to do a basic balance drill where you're going to balance on your right foot. So we're going to do both right foot balance and left foot balance. So what Katie's going to do is she's going to balance, let's start with your right foot. She's going to pick her right foot up off the ground. If you're one of those individuals who does not have very good balance, you can actually place a chair beside you and wean yourself off from that chair. So you can place your hand on the chair and then slowly take your hand off the chair. So what I'm looking for in Katie when she's doing this, and let's go ahead and switch to your left leg, and why don't you turn around and face that direction. I'm going to look at her hips here and making sure that her hips don't sag. If I'm looking at Katie right now, let's turn a little bit more. Her right hip is actually sagging a little bit more than her left hip. So I would want to make sure that her hips are on the same plane. So when you're doing this drill, you want to make sure that your hip isn't lowered. All right? You want to make sure that each hip is on the same plane. So right isn't below left or left below right. What happens when one hip drops lower, that means that the stabilizing leg isn't really kicking in. The hip musculature isn't working properly. So make sure that your hips are on the same plane. Okay? All right, that's good, Katie. All right, so now let's go ahead and progress this a little bit, all right? So I'm going to ask you to balance on your right leg, maybe turn and face the camera a little bit more. What I want you to do now is I want you to take your hands and place them out in front of you. So now what she's doing, she's going to challenge herself a little bit by horizontally displacing her limbs and reaching out. Now if I want to tweak this further, I'm going to ask you to take your hands and reach to your right. So reach to your right slowly, and she can look straight ahead, or if she wants, she can follow her hands, all right? This is a little bit more of a challenge. Now she's going to reverse it. Take your hands to the other side, to the left. Good, and look straight ahead. Okay, and now I want you to lift your hands up over your head. So we oftentimes have to reach every day to our right or to our left or up over our head, and this is training her whole kinetics chain from her heel all the way up to her fingertips, really. Okay, now hands down. All right, let's switch to the left leg. General rule of thumb, you know, if you're just starting off, maybe try to achieve 30 seconds of stabilization on one leg where you don't fall or you don't teeter. All right? If you can do that, then progress to the next step up. And so we would start off with, say, single leg balance. That would be step number one. If you have to use a chair, try to wean yourself away from the chair. And then you can progress it further by doing the various reaches that we just demonstrated. Okay? Now I want you to close your eyes. So if we want to progress this further, close your eyes. And that's really going to mess with your proprioception, your sense of joint position, your kinesthetic awareness, which is basically the ability to know where your body is in the 3D world in which we live. Okay, now place your hands up over your head. So this is much more challenging. You can see if you look at her left foot, it's kind of wobbly a little bit. All right. Now hands down out in front of you. Now reach to your right. Now she's turning here. You can see this is a little bit more difficult. Even still, okay, now reach to your left. And she has pretty good balance, so this would be more of an intermediate drill with your eyes closed. Okay, that's good. So those are some really basic balance drills you can do without any equipment whatsoever. All right, now we're going to bring the Swiss ball into play. Swiss ball, great tool. You can do all kinds of basic exercises all the way to advanced exercises. So why don't you have a seat on the ball and face the camera. So this next series of drills would be considered basic balance drills. She's going to start off by sitting on a Swiss ball. You want to make sure that you have pretty good posture here. So your head and your spine is nice and straight. You shouldn't sit in a slumped over fashion. All right? Nice erect posture. And I'm going to ask Katie now to pick up her right foot. And she's going to pick up her right foot. And what's cool about doing this exercise is it really forces the floor of your pelvis. All these little stabilizing muscle groups in the floor of your pelvis and in your core to control the position of your pelvis, because the ball is going to want to drift to the right or to the left. Right? Switch your feet. And so those muscles are activated when you pick one foot up off the floor and are really kicking in, coming into play. This is definitely more challenging than what she's making it look. She's making this look pretty easy. Okay, go ahead and switch feet again. So now, if I want to progress it, I'm going to ask her to lift her left arm above her head. So now she's going to do an opposite arm leg lift. Her right foot is off the ground. Her left hand is in the air. And now let's switch sides. Now right arm up, left arm or left foot off the ground. Now she's going to march a little bit. Let's go ahead and pick up the pace a little bit. Just hold each one for about a 2 count. So now if we want to amplify it, make it a little bit faster, and keep switching here, again, her core is going to have to adapt to that and respond to that speed of movement. And she has to work a little bit differently compared to just stable holds. Okay, that's great. All right, thank you. Go ahead and stand up. So again, really basic exercise you can use that you can do on the Swiss ball. All right. The next drill we're going to do is some Swiss ball core holds. And what she's going to do is hold the Swiss ball. You can make this really tough if you want to. You can have an individual stand on one foot. But again, these are some of the basic drills that we're going to demonstrate right now. Katie's going to hold on to the ball, and she's going to unlock her knees, keep her feet pointed straight ahead. Make sure that you engage your hips, all right, by pushing your hips slightly back as if you were going to sit down on a chair. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tap the ball and kind of push it a little bit in different directions. So you need a partner for this, obviously, someone to kind of slap you around. So I may push back a little bit, I may fake her out a little bit, and you see how she just came forward and fell. You're going to fall on your face, weren't you? Lucky that Swiss ball was there. So you can see she kind of gets out on her heels. So she's got to engage her core. Her hips have to really fire and work to keep her balance, all right? I may keep pushing a little bit to the left, and she just wants to keep it in the middle, so use your core musculature. All right, and that's a basic ball slap drill. So now, if I wanted to increase that, make it more of an intermediate drill and or advanced drill, stand on your right foot only. Right foot only. Okay, so now we're going back to the single leg balance. But now I'm going to beat her up a little bit and push the ball around, and she has to respond to that. You don't have to have a Swiss ball for this necessarily. I could actually take the ball away, go ahead and just stand there, and come and give her some taps. Push her front. You can push it from the back side or the front side. Okay, go ahead and switch legs. Do you feel this quite a bit in your hips? Okay. So these are really good basic drills. They're going to work the whole, again, chain of her body. So the whole left side of her hip musculature, leg, of course. So people that have had injuries related to their ankle, this is often a rehabilitation exercise to really try to train those stabilizers in the ankle joint to get that individual kind of used to those muscles firing in the right pattern or nervous system responding appropriately. Okay? All right, next we're going to go ahead and break out the balance beam. All right? The 2x4 is a really great tool to do some basic balance drills, and we're going to show you the basic ones. You can do, again, advanced exercises as well, but we're going to start off with some basic balance beam exercises. So Katie, what I want you to do, actually I think I'm going to do this. I'm going to demonstrate for now, and I'm going to use the balance beam and just walk on it like you would any old balance beam in gymnastics. But this is a 2x4, so if you can afford a loaf of bread, you can afford to buy a 2x4 and use this for basic balance drills. So my grandmother's almost 92. I've thrown her on the balance beam many times. It's a great tool. Again, if you're someone who can't perform this on their own, you can actually have a partner helping you. So Katie, come on over here and be my assistant. And this is what it would look like. I would maybe rely on her just a little bit, and she's going to walk with me. I've got my hand on her shoulder, but once I become confident, maybe I want to take my hand off, but again, she's right here to respond to catch me if I need her, okay? So that was a sagittal plane walk. So now if we wanted to do a frontal plane, real basic balance beam drill, we can do that. Okay, so I'm essentially on my midfoot and or the balls of my feet, and I'm just taking little baby steps side to side. Again, the point that I'm trying to make here with basic drills is to take your time, all right? You don't have to rush. This isn't about speed necessarily in the beginning. You're really trying to establish these new neural patterns. You want your body to respond favorably, so take your time. In time, as you become more in balance and the muscles that are firing that are supposed to work properly, all these stabilizers gain strength and you become aware of what you're doing, then you're going to improve, and then you can ramp up the amplitude, make it that much harder. Okay, so those are two basic balance beam drills. Okay, so we gave you several exercises, more basic in nature, and now we're going to move on to some of the intermediate drills. All right? So the first exercise we're going to do, if we want to move into the intermediate drills, is a single leg hop. So everybody's hopped before, all right? So what I want you to do is hop on your right foot, and let's go ahead and do 10 hops on your right and then 10 hops on your left, all right? So we're going to count. So what she's trying to do is just jump and land, all right? And just a static position. She doesn't want to move around. She wants to stay kind of in the same position, all right? I think that's about 10. Okay, now we're going to move to her left leg. Let's see if there's much of a difference. I'm looking at her hips. I'm looking at her knee. I'm looking at her ankle. I'm looking at her shoulders too. So what I want to make sure that her hips essentially stay on the same plane, that she doesn't have a massive hip drop. I want to make sure that her knee doesn't cave in like so when she's jumping like this, all right? I want to make sure that her foot doesn't collapse, roll in, or what's called overpronate. You ready? Set, go. Let's do 10 hops. Which side do you feel more stable on? It's very obvious to me. Her left side is definitely, she's much more fluid when she's jumping on her left versus her right. Her hips tend to collapse a little bit when she's jumping on her right. That tells me that she's definitely has more strength probably in her left hip, and I would assume that if she were going to go up and dunk a basketball, she would probably jump off her left leg. So Katie, I know, played college basketball, and she probably jumped so many times off her left leg explosively, she's got some muscle imbalances. And that's very common. Everybody has muscle imbalances just due to the cumulative stress of whatever they're doing, daily tasks or sports that they play or lack of activity. So we're going to have muscle imbalances, and this is just a real basic drill to identify those muscle imbalances, work on these balance drills, and hopefully we can get some improvement. So you don't have to just jump on a machine. You can do some really simple things. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is we're going to do some lateral creek jumps. This is an intermediate drill. All right, so now we're going to get into these lateral mini bounding drills. So I want you to, we've got 2 lines here in the floor. I want you just to jump from side to side, okay? So she's going to jump to her right, and she's going to land on one leg and try to recover, stabilize. And then she's going to jump back to her left. Okay, good. And stabilize. And then jump back to her right. So this particular drill is definitely more of a balance challenge, okay, back to her left. But again, it forces her to decelerate, train these decelerators in her hips, which are important for developing, enhancing balance and preventing injury. Okay, jump back to your right again. Stabilize. And when she's landing, I'm looking at her hips to make sure that they load properly, okay? So jump back to your left. And what do I mean by load properly? Let's go ahead and do it from the side now. Katie, why don't you stand right over here, and we can get a better angle. So she's going to jump to her left. And when she lands on her left foot, go ahead and jump. When she lands, I'm making sure that her hips slightly come back, all right, where her glutes are loading. All right, if I see that she lands and her hips are kind of forward here, she's not going to decelerate efficiently and be able to absorb that big load. You've got gravity and body weight kind of bearing down. When you jump, you're explosive. When you land, you have to decelerate all that momentum. Okay, let's go back to your right. Good. Do you feel more stable jumping to your left or your right? Do you notice much of a difference?
I think to my right I feel a little bit more stable, but I don't really notice that much of a
Okay,
difference.
so she feels, when she's jumping to her right, she feels a little bit more stable. Okay, and one more time to your left and one more time to your right. And one more time to your right. Good, and you can see she's really using her arms to generate that power to move her mass from side to side. Good. Great drill. Just, I call them lateral creek jumps, landing on one leg. All right, the BOSU. It's a good tool. You can do hundreds of exercises with this. Is this necessary? Not necessarily. It's a nice tool in the toolbox. It's a cool thing to have, kind of like a Swiss ball. Swiss ball is much cheaper. This is probably 3-4 times the expense. But if you want to add a little variety, a little spice in your life, you can certainly do that. One thing that I need to mention is that when you're training balance, typically it should be done early in a program. So in your fitness regime, when you have plenty of energy and you're not fatigued, typically, not always, but most people should be doing their balance training at the beginning of their program. And usually if I'm focusing on balance in a particular training session with a client of mine, I typically don't have them do it for more than, say, 8 to 10 minutes. But you can crank out 7, 8, 9, 10 drills pretty fast. So it's a little fun too. All right, the BOSU, and I'll demonstrate some of these exercises. If you notice when I step on it, it has a little give. It's basically a half of a Swiss ball with a platform, all right? So on this, if I want to add, say, everybody's performed a lunge pattern. If I want to do a lunge, but I want to add a little instability or an unstable surface, I can do that. So this is definitely going to require much more balance and agility for me to perform this. So this is just a regular forward lunge where I'm stabilizing. I can do lateral lunges. I can do step-ups. I mean, I can do tons of stuff. But just the rebound effect that the BOSU provides me is a little bit different than ground-based, typical ground-based exercises and our movements. So if I want to step up onto it, I can certainly step up and then step down. I can perform really basic squats on it. You know, that's really cool just to do squats. And again, this is more of an intermediate exercise. The lunge patterns that I just demonstrated, more intermediate. But again, that unstable surface requires more. My nervous system has to work that much harder than typical ground-based, nice, even surface training does. But again, those are just some basic drills you can do on the BOSU. I may try some advanced ones here if we have time. All right, upper body balance training and core training. You can use the Swiss ball for this one. This is more of a plank while holding a Swiss ball. And this drill is going to work your core musculature, but also, because it's an unstable piece of equipment, it requires a lot of balance and all kinds of muscle groups in your body, from your shoulder stabilizers are really cranking out here because the ball wants to move in different directions, all right? Your core musculature is working really hard as well. If I want to progress this, I may ask Katie to lift your left foot off the ground. So if I'm having her lift her left foot on the ground, off the ground, now she has just her right foot that's providing support, makes it that much more difficult. Okay, foot down again. Okay, maybe push up a little bit more through your shoulders, lift your hips just a little higher. Good, you want to make sure there's no sag here in your lower back if you're trying this exercise. Now if I want to progress this, I may tap on the ball slightly. And all these little taps require her to work that much harder from a stability standpoint. Are you getting tired? Because I'm tired. I'm just watching you too. Okay, that's good. That's good. So you get an idea of some of the upper body balance drills you can do. Maybe if you want to do those Swiss ball slaps, 30 seconds, if somebody could do that 30 seconds. Again, you've got to be careful with this because you could get hurt very easily. So don't ramp it up so much where you're kicking the ball and punching it and you have your training partner or the person you're training just can't maintain it, because this can become a debilitating exercise very fast if you're not careful. All right. The Erox pad is another little interesting training tool. There goes my Swiss ball. We'll throw that back there for me. Thank you. The Erox pad is a spongy type surface. It's a little pad here, about 1.5 feet by 2 feet. And it's kind of like if you've ever seen a Tempur-Pedic mattress. It's similar to that in its composition. But this provides, again, a little bit different, like the BOSU. You've got a little bit of a rebound effect, all right? It's unstable. It's an unstable training surface, unlike the floor. So you can see my foot here just with a single leg balance, which would be considered an intermediate drill on an Erox pad. I have to work that much harder. So my hip is firing much harder than it would if I was just doing a single leg balance on the floor. You can see the movement of my left foot is minimal compared to all the little oscillations, all the little movements here in my foot here, because I have to work that much harder. So all these muscles in this whole chain here are firing, kind of working like a symphony. They're all working together in a harmonious pattern. I kind of like that. It has a nice flow. Okay, so if I wanted to increase the difficulty and maybe try a single leg squat, I can do that. All right, again, working much harder versus the floor. For some people, this might be advanced. Again, it's all relative to your degree of fitness. You can come down and hold that. If you wanted to do some lateral taps with your foot, reaching out and back, in different angles, different positions, you can really ramp it up and amplify it and make it that much more of a challenge. So again, anytime you're displacing a limb from your body, you've got that much greater of a neural demand. Okay, we're going to move on to some of the advanced exercises. Again, we talked about upper body drills, single arm balance on a Swiss ball. So Katie showed you with 2 hands. If I wanted to make it harder, just trying it with one hand up. You can see I'm really fighting here. But that's going to work your core that much harder. Just using one limb, 2 points, both feet on the floor. And again, if you're really strong and just crazy, you could actually have somebody tap it again. But I caution you, it's a dangerous drill and you want to make sure that you're very strong and stable. You don't have any history of injuries. I couldn't do that with my right shoulder because of my lovely right shoulder. But it's a fun drill. Another advanced drill on the Swiss ball, and I know of people that will stand on a Swiss ball. I know it sounds stupid, and for most people, 99.99% of people out there, I would not advise standing on a Swiss ball and performing a squat. But you can do real basic, well, I guess this would be more or less an advanced drill. Kneeling on a Swiss ball, which is really going to fire your core quite a bit, and just trying to keep your balance on it. So you're just going to kneel on it, and it's really hard until you get the hang of it, but placing your hands on the ball, then shins on the ball. It's kind of several steps here. Then I kind of rock forward a little bit so my toes come off the ground. I gather myself, and then I'll slowly inch up onto the ball. Sometimes I'll catch it with the front of my foot, which gives me a little bit more stability, and then voila. Again, you can do different things with your hands too if you wanted to make it harder. But that's, again, a good balance drill. Really trains the floor of the pelvis quite nicely. Okay, the other advanced exercise I want to talk about is the triplanar matrix, or the jump matrix. All right, moving in multiple planes, and I'll demonstrate this exercise. Katie demonstrated the intermediate drill where we're jumping side to side. This is a drill in which we jump in all 3 planes. Forward, sagittal plane, laterally, the frontal plane, and then in the transverse plane, which is rotation. So I'm going to start in the center here, draw kind of a circle. This is my home base with my feet, and I'm going to jump explosively and land on one foot and then come back home on my opposite foot. So I'm going to jump, land, gather myself, and come back. Switch feet, jump, land, gather myself, and then come back. I'm going to switch and go laterally, jump, jump, land, and then rotate and back home. So again, start at home, jump, land, gather yourself, come back, switch feet, jump, land, gather yourself, come back. Okay, so you're working in all three planes. A lot of balance, a lot of demand. You can hear me kind of huffing and puffing a little bit. It's a fun drill, all right? The advanced exercises on the beam, we've got about a minute left to go roughly. Maybe 2 minutes, okay? Katie, I'll tell you what, we're gonna kind of move this from the side. You wanna stand right over here. So you can do some med ball drills, hopping up on the beam. We're gonna toss it. I've got to catch and rotate. I gotta go down and get it. And I'm in shark-infested waters. I can't fall into the ocean. I'm gonna get eaten. I play little games like that. It's harder than it looks because you've got the Swiss ball that weighs, well, this weighs about 3 pounds roughly. But I'm fighting the whole time to maintain my composure. And you see she's making this interesting for me. Okay, if I wanted to do, let's go ahead and set that down. And I'm going to point at her hand. If I'm going to walk here, she's going to come and walk around, and I've got to point at her hand. This is changing my balance point at all times. Every time I move my hand or point at her hand with my finger, you can see I'm kind of all over the place. But again, another really great drill to balance, to challenge your balance. A lot of fun with the balance beam. Katie, thanks for your help. Appreciate it. We're about out of time. If you have about what we do here at Body Symmetry, please call us at 217-793-9972. We work with a lot of different people out there, and we love what we do. Thanks again for joining me on another edition of Personal Health and Fitness. Until next time, I'm your host, Chad Marshak. Hey, Quinn and Riley.